What you are about to hear is the real account of Thomas and Elaine Whitaker, a couple who set out for a routine sail and returned with something they could never explain. Their afternoon on familiar waters turned into an unsettling encounter with a place that should not have existed. Prepare yourself for a strange and gripping experience. The morning was ordinary enough to feel rehearsed. Thomas fueled the outboard auxiliary while Elaine checked the ice chest and thermos. They had made this exact trip so many times that neither of them needed to speak much. They moved around each other the way long married people do, not guessing, not asking, just knowing. Weather report on the radio. Calm seas, visibility excellent, scattered cloud. They departed the harbor at approximately 9:10 a.m. Wind was steady from the southeast. The water was unusually smooth, almost lake-like. Around noon, they passed the same marker buoy they always used as a turning reference. Thomas later insisted on this point repeatedly. "I know exactly where we were. I could draw it on a chart, blindfolded." They continued roughly 7 nautical miles beyond. Elaine noticed it first. She described the air as becoming thick, not foggy, not cloudy. The horizon lost sharpness, not obscured, just softened. The sun was still visible, but dimmer, as if seen through tinted glass. The ocean surface turned darker blue, almost metallic. Thomas checked the compass. Heading? Correct. Wind? Unchanged. Radio reception began to fill with static, not crackling like interference, a steady, low, rushing noise. He assumed weather. There were no storm clouds. 10 to 15 minutes later, the watercolor shifted again, now pale green, shallow-looking, despite charts indicating over 70 feet depth. Then, the smell. Elaine described it as wet soil and vegetation, a land smell. They should have been miles from land. At approximately 12:45 p.m., land appeared directly ahead. Not distant coastline, close, within a mile. A low island, maybe half a mile long. Pale sand shoreline, dense trees behind it. The trees were tall and thin, with smooth trunks, grayish bark, and leaves shaped unlike any coastal species they recognized. No seabirds circled it. No wave noise reached them, despite a light breeze. Thomas's first assumption was navigational error. He checked chart coordinates twice. The position corresponded to open water. No shoals, no sandbar, no recorded island. They had sailed that exact route dozens of times across nearly a decade. Neither had ever seen land there. Elaine asked if they had drifted much farther south. Thomas checked the sun angle and compass again. No. Curiosity overrode caution. They reduced sail and approached slowly. Depth sounder began behaving irregularly. Numbers fluctuated from 60 feet to 12 feet to blank readings within seconds. Yet the yacht did not ground. The water near shore was clear, almost unnaturally so. No fish were visible, no shells, no floating debris. They anchored roughly 40 yards offshore and rowed in with the dinghy. The beach sand was extremely fine, almost powdery, pale gray rather than white. It held no footprints well. Their steps partially collapsed behind them as though the surface resisted impression. Temperature felt cooler on the island than offshore, though the sun was directly overhead. They walked perhaps 100 yards into the tree line. No insects, no birds, no wind sound in the leaves. Silence that Elaine later described as indoor silence, like a large empty building. The trees were spaced evenly, almost orchard-like, but not planted in rows. Ground vegetation was minimal, only short, pale grass, no fallen branches, no dead leaves, no animal tracks. Thomas removed his wristwatch to check the time. The second hand had stopped. Elaine's wind-up watch had also stopped. Both had been working minutes earlier. He attempted to wind his. It would not tick. They stayed no more than 10 minutes after noticing this. Elaine later stated she felt an increasing uneasiness that she could not explain. Not fear of danger, rather a strong sense that they were somewhere they were not supposed to be. They returned to the dinghy without speaking much. Upon pushing off from shore, Thomas looked back once more. He remarked that the tree line appeared slightly blurred, like a photograph out of focus. They raised sail and headed back along the same compass bearing they had used to approach. Within roughly 5 minutes, the air clarity returned. The sea color reverted to normal deep blue. Radio suddenly resumed normal broadcasts mid-sentence, as if a switch had been flipped. Thomas turned to check the island's position. There was nothing behind them. No shoreline, no trees, open ocean in every direction. They sailed back toward Charleston immediately. They reached harbor near dusk. Dockmaster recorded arrival at 6:40 p.m. Here lies the part they could never explain. By their own estimation, including sailing time and the short landing, the trip should have taken about 7 hours. However, according to harbor records and a gas station receipt time stamp from before departure, they had been gone almost 11 hours. Their stopped watches both began ticking again that evening without repair. Thomas checked navigational charts over the following weeks. Coast Guard records showed no temporary island, shoal exposure, or seismic event in the area. They never encountered the island again, despite attempting to locate it multiple times during later trips. After 1978, they stopped sailing offshore entirely. Elaine's final comment, recorded in a letter to her sister in 1982. "We didn't discover a place. We crossed into one for a little while, and whatever it wasn't meant to stay connected to our world.